Today we welcome Mr. James Webb, our Chief Information Officer and Vice President Information Technology at West Texas A&M University. Very brief introduction about Mr. Webb. James went to West Texas A&M University, received his BBA and MBA, and then for many years he worked for private companies and public organizations, and he also attended seminars and special executive education programs at LBJ, London B. Johnston School at UT Austin, and of course Stanford University and Oxford University in England. All three institutions are very good. And after that, James joined us, and for many years, he has been our Chief Information Officer and Vice President, Information Technology. The topic we have today, it's very interesting, and it's in front of us all the time, almost 24 hours a day. It doesn't matter which country you go to, since I teach international business courses. If you start from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, if you look at multinational corporations from Amazon.com to Walmart or Zara from Spain, and if you look at all the disciplines, for example, astronomy to zoology, I mean, no matter where you go, you have to use technology, you have to use digital media and all the things. In fact, we were just talking, James Webb telescope is already 1 million miles away, and they are using all the computer science. Your name. Very briefly, I looked at today, Apple's market value is $2.11 trillion. Amazon is sitting at $1.24 trillion. Google is at $1.4 trillion. This is today. And what's happening with these companies? It's all digital. It's all information technology. And this is where the main things are going. It's over about $12 trillion market, information technology worldwide. And in the US, of course, we know Silicon Valley, which is made up of thousands of companies, and they employ overall about 20 plus million people. So basically, US is the main leader in information technology, and behind that, we see all kinds of innovations. And those innovations, we already know entrepreneurial activities started, and now some of the companies are very big. So let me move to Mr. Webb now and talk about some of the issues happening in the world and the industry, since this is what we teach. So my first question is, tell us about the high-tech industry, especially its history and its main role in the last 30 to 40 years regarding achieving quality of life and all the productivity what we have witnessed.
Well, I think we talked earlier, and if you look at the digital economy today globally, it's about $13 trillion. Mm-hmm. In the U.S., we contribute about $1.8 trillion towards our GDP, which is about 9.5–10% of our GDP. But how did we get here?
That's right.
And there's a very interesting history of how we got here. And so it's really three things. It's the first wave of the internet. It was about connectivity. In the early phases of the internet, you had AOL, you had dial-up. People didn't have widespread commodity internet. We didn't have Internet 2, which is for research computing, which we're connected to Internet 2 as well. So you had this mass expansion of people getting connected to the internet. And that began to transform everything. That was probably in the early 90s. So once we got past connectivity, and by the way, we're still struggling with connectivity. Mm-hmm. In rural areas, we don't have good fiber optic connectivity. We have Wi-Fi, which can be often slow. Mm-hmm. But with the proliferation of telemedicine and critical services that are shifting, in the Texas Panhandle, for example, a lot of hospitals in the top 26 counties, they've gone out of business.
That's right.
So people in Memphis, Texas, they rely on telemedicine for their health care. They have to have good connectivity. So in certain areas, we're still struggling with the connectivity, which is why Texas has started a broadband effort to increase internet connectivity across the state. It's just assumed that most Americans have great connectivity, but we don't in the rural areas, and it's a focus for the state of Texas. The second phase of the internet was really about e-commerce.
That's right.
And how that transformed planet Earth into this global economy that's today contributing $12 trillion, right, to the digital economy. Companies like eBay, PayPal, even Amazon started in the 90s. And those companies today have built the foundation for e-commerce. Without e-commerce, we wouldn't have the things we have today. People's lifestyles have changed dramatically. People can now order groceries online. They can do a lot of things online. If you look at Domino's Pizza,
That's right.
you can watch the supply chain of your pizza from order to oven to delivery.
That's right.
You know every second where your pizza is. So more companies are becoming like Domino's to increase visibility. It's about the customer experience. So the third wave of the internet, and we're coming out of that still, is social media.
That's right.
There's 8 billion people on the planet.
That's right.
The population of Facebook, they have 2.9 billion with a B, billion active users. Think about that. If Facebook were a country, how that would translate to a country like like China,
That's
or even most of the EU, right? So social media has transformed voice communication, right, and video communication, which has made a large impact in how people communicate. I think in India, the most popular app is WhatsApp.
That's right.
So it just depends on where you're at and what app is more popular.
All over South Asia.
Yeah.
And many countries, WhatsApp, that's what people use because it's free.
Yeah. So long distance, that's a thing of the past. It's about internet communications, connectivity. And so with connectivity, e-commerce, social media, we're now entering what's called Webb 3.0.
That's right.
Which is about cryptocurrency, blockchain, AI, machine learning, augmented virtual reality, all these things coming together to take the internet to the next level.
That's right. Interesting. So let me go to the second question. So, that is about the present era. What are the main challenges do you deal with or do you anticipate on a daily basis? Because you already mentioned we are in Web 3. And I remember when Web 1 came and 2 came, it was basic. Some of us were even hesitant to even use our credit card if we wanted to buy anything at Amazon. But now it's a Web 3. It's like amazing how things are changing. So tell us what's happening. What do you deal with?
Well, I think the number one challenge we're facing across the globe with technology is supply chain. I think the current situation with supply chain, there's going to be winners and losers.
That's right.
So, for example, Cisco. The Cisco ending Q3, they had a $15 billion backlog in customer orders.
Wow.
So we're putting Wi-Fi at Palo Duro Canyon State Park. We just signed a collaborative agreement with the Texas Parks and Wildlife and the A&M system. And so we're now to the procurement phase of the project. So we got 3 different bids back. The equipment is 398 days.
Okay.
We have to complete the project this summer. I can't get the equipment until later next year.
That's right.
So how do we complete projects when we can't get equipment? Because most of this equipment is made in China.
That's right.
There's supply chain constraints that are affecting every area. Cisco, Juniper, Extreme Networks. We're trying to expand Wi-Fi at Buffalo Stadium, which, by the way, was the first Wi-Fi 6 connected stadium in the country.
Wow.
So luckily we built some extra capacity, but we can't get equipment to expand the wireless at our stadium right now. So the winners will figure out how to procure equipment from other channels to complete projects. Because a lot of these projects are at a standstill, which will start to push us more to software-defined networking. So we can deliver connectivity and solutions over software. That's a challenge. Another challenge that we're facing is cybersecurity, data privacy. So the cloud is this brilliant, amazing, adaptive entity that's constantly changing. And if we look at other industries like automotive, for example, so you see a lot of autonomous vehicles coming to the marketplace. Well, think about a Tesla, for example. The Tesla is communicating to the cloud.
That's right.
So let's say a pedestrian is crossing the street. At what point do we use the network, the cloud, and AI and machine learning to make a decision about swerving? Maybe we're going to swerve into an oncoming car away from that pedestrian coming at us. Who makes that decision?
That's right.
And more importantly, what's the latency in that decision that gets made? Maybe at the time the car has network latency connecting back to Tesla's cloud. So how do you solve that? So there's this new phase that we're ushering into with the internet called edge to cloud.
Okay.
So we're starting to deploy compute, database capabilities at the edge of different networks. Okay. So when the car connects to the cloud, it doesn't have to connect all the way up to the cloud. It can connect to a city edge network where it has more responsive connectivity to help make that decision. But still, machine learning and AI, that's still a difficult decision to make, and then who's going to regulate that decision?
That's right.
A third area is complexity.
Okay.
So we have Google Cloud, we have AWS, so Amazon's cloud, Microsoft has their cloud. At the university, we have a private cloud, which runs on VMware. And then you have hybrid cloud, which is connecting our cloud, our private cloud, to different public cloud providers. So a good example of that is Blackboard.
That's right.
So we just shifted Blackboard to the cloud, and we did that to have zero downtime. And so Blackboard runs in AWS's cloud. So the complexity involved is different cloud providers connecting back to our cloud, and the architects, the network architects and engineers that understand Google, Microsoft, AWS, VMware, and how to make that work and interoperate together to deliver SLAs of 99.9% to our students.
That's right.
That's getting more and more complex. The talent acquisition and retention is difficult.
Okay.
Turnover at every organization is high right now. Technology jobs are lucrative. A lot of people are moving around. So how do you retain those employees? That's becoming a challenge.
So is it part of the Web3, or is it the start, or are we in the middle, or maybe it's a transition? Where do you put yourself?
Yeah, I think we're at the very beginning of Web 3.0.
Okay.
We're looking at some solutions for the university that use, it's a company called Greenlight Credentials.
Okay.
Greenlight Credentials puts the power of student transcripts in their hands. So it works on blockchain, and it's hosted at AWS, and students can decide this transcript is under my control, and then I can send it to whoever, versus getting your transcript from your school, collecting that information, and then sending it to another school. It's a mobile app that will do the same thing, but we're incredibly sensitive to security. So with blockchain and the security that provides, there may be a different solution. So in the marketplace, there's more innovative solutions that are coming out. And really what we're seeing is that large corporations that provide incumbent systems like Ellucian, which is our student information system, they're not as agile as a smaller niche provider vendor solution. So we're starting to see a lot of unicorn companies come up that are more nimble and agile, and they focus on one thing. And so they go to the market with one solution, but it's a solution that everybody needs. But the incumbent providers just can't move quick enough to provide that flexibility. So we have a myriad of solutions coming to the marketplace. And I talked to my colleagues across the state. We're all struggling with reviewing contracts. We're all becoming attorneys, right?
So basically, the supply chain disruptions or the value chains have been kind of disrupted or slowed down. Is it because of COVID, or was it happening before, or did you guys anticipate it was going to be coming?
It was really due to the pandemic. So prior to COVID-19, we could get equipment in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
So, for example, when we launched Buffalo Stadium, we ordered equipment end of May. We had it in 14 days on site. So it was and it came from China. It was not a problem. So a lot of these companies, there's some equipment in the channel with distributors and partners, and that's where most of it. But those channels are dried up. So we just can't get equipment quick enough across every facet of IT.
Because I was reading yesterday, I think, one of the papers, and they had a very good story about that in some industries now things started to come in, and some companies, they have too much stuff. So if you apply supply and demand, the prices may go down gradually. So of course we have first time 40 years we have such a high inflation, but they are predicting that eventually things will be okay. What's your reaction on that?
I see it going the other way. There's another aspect of technology that every company is shifting to, and it's software subscription. So gone are the days where you purchase software, install it, run it, and you're happy. No. You have to pay for that software every year. So even with a company like Extreme Networks or Dell, we have annual maintenance renewals, or it's a subscription. So you pay for the right to use the software every year. Those maintenance renewals and subscriptions are going up 5 to 14% per year. And with inflation at a record high and the economy the way it is, those costs are being passed on to customers, like West Texas A&M. So we're seeing annual maintenance renewals go up close to 15% a year. So what we're having to do is negotiate long-term contracts with these vendors. Hey, we'll sign a 5-year agreement with you. In exchange for that long-term agreement, you promise to lock in a rate, an escalator, maybe only go up 5% per year. So we're looking at creative ways to keep our operating expenditures down. CapEx, capital expenditures, we don't get any extra money. So we have to be very innovative with what we do. And we're trying to shift more to software because sometimes it depends, that's a little bit cheaper to operate.
So where do you see the power then? Because the power is already been given to the supplier. And so how do you deal with that transaction? Because your job is to bring the transaction cost down, and their job is to keep the main system in their hand. How do you deal with that?
Contracts.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you manage a contract. And if you go to court and need arbitration, contracts. So we have a lot of legal reviews. I mentioned earlier, I feel like I'm turning into an attorney. Because all I do is look at contracts all week long. The campus here at the university, every division has different needs. They look at different solutions. It always comes back to a software subscription. So the cloud is this mysterious thing that there's different levels of it. So there's SaaS, software as a service.
Yes.
So Blackboard is SaaS.
That's right.
So it's just an application running in the cloud. Then you have PaaS, platform as a service, and that's more of you're using the cloud for database, application development, plus application or SaaS.
That's right.
Salesforce is an example.
Yes.
So for recruiting and admissions, we leverage Salesforce.
Okay.
And so we've gotten to the point with our Salesforce implementation that we've streamlined the whole process from application to admission with our students. It's taken us 2 years to get to that point. So at a certain point in time, there is some vendor lock-in. So you really must have a good relationship with your vendor and work with them. So that part of it's getting more complicated because moving admissions and recruiting from Salesforce to another solution, that's not an easy decision. There's long-term implications.
So there are a lot of things which we do not know because it's all happening behind the scene.
Right.
And those are transactions, negotiations, and dealing with suppliers, and then disruptions show up. So this is a never-ending task. You guys are always dealing with these issues. So it is not just IT that you come in and you deal with computers, but behind the scene you have to have different kind of knowledge as well.
Right. And so in Europe, they adopted the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation.
That's right.
And if we have European Union citizens that we manage their data
That's right.
or provide services to, we have to adhere to their compliance regulations. California has their privacy regulations. The state of Texas rolled out theirs in January.
That's right.
Called TexRAMP. Texas Risk Authorization Management Program. So now any vendor that we enter into business with has to be TexRAMP compliant
Okay.
and apply to the state of Texas. And if they're not on that list, we can't do business with them.
Okay.
So what that means is a lot of the smaller niche solutions that are not really good with security, they're going to miss opportunities because they're not security minded and focused on that aspect of it. Okay. So it's going to limit who we can do business with. And if that limits who we do business with, they're going to pass that cost on to us. So our costs are going to increase to accommodate the cyber and data privacy protections that they've baked into their products.
Okay. So the word you use, complexity. So this is where the issue is, because a regular consumer just comes in, they start using the product or computer or PC, but they do not know what are the issues behind the scene. And this is where a lot of knowledge needs to be there, right?
Yeah, and from a user or a business user at any organization, the thing that they don't see is data is everywhere.
Absolutely.
Data's in the cloud.
Yes.
The data is here. It's on the edge. Your data could be in Ireland.
That's right.
At a AWS data center. So they have different availability zones. Your data can move around.
That's right.
Most of the time, you don't know where your data is.
And so these are jurisdictional issues.
They are.
We teach it in international business. In fact, I think in a couple of months, I'll be presenting a paper on GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation.
Right.
I wrote a piece on that. And the issue is just 10 years ago, we did not know some of the things. And so this is where technology is moving very fast.
Well, and where that has teeth
Yes.
with GDPR, and I don't know the exact percentage, but the fine for violation of GDPR
Yes.
is not, for example, a $33,000 fine.
Wow.
It's actually a percentage of your revenue. Your annual revenue. So it could be, 6-7%. And if you're a company with $1 billion in revenue,
Yes.
that's quite a hefty fine for non-compliance.
So a lot of training for employees and a lot of information and a lot of exams to be taken. This is what we deal with. I mean, any comment on that?
Yeah, I think we've had this thing happen called the consumerization of IT,
Yes.
and it's complete.
Complete.
And so what's happening is people come into organizations and they think, hey, at home, I use Dropbox.
Yes.
I use all these personal tools. Guess what they start using at the office?
Yes.
Dropbox, all these personal tools. And that puts our data at risk, especially for PII. Personally identifiable information. So most organizations have a training program for information security awareness.
Okay.
Just so everyone is up to speed on the protections that you have to have in place. You know, I teach the networking course in your college, and there was a risk management officer for a bank in my course, and we were talking, and she said, we do security awareness training 4 times a year.
Wow.
Well, we do it once.
Okay.
I'd like to do it 4, but there's the cultural aspect, there's a tolerance to the business, and you have to balance compliance with productivity. Because at the end of the day, technology is here to support the business. And a university, a lot of people consider the university a business. Enrollment goes down, we lose revenue, we can't hire as many faculty.
Absolutely.
Enrollment goes up, we're thriving, we expand programs, expand faculty, we're growing. We want to grow.
Yes.
So those are some different aspects to think of.
So a lot of complexity, lot of issues. Let me give you the third question. What do you see happening in the next 5 to 10 years? You know, there was a time we used to forecast and we used to teach forecasting and predictions like 10, 15 years. Those days are gone. In these days, we don't go beyond 5 to 10 years. What do you see some of the things happening? Because in my list, I brought some of the issues. For example, if you look at Gartner, McKinsey, BCG, all these top consulting companies, including the World Bank and United Nations, almost everybody got some kind of survey. So we have cybersecurity, privacy, cloud, native platform, decision intelligence, hyper automation, automatic systems. Then I have some more, deep learning or deep technology, agriculture, life sciences, chemistry, aerospace, green energy. Where is the limit?
Well, that tells me technology is a good place to be. Yes. It's a good place to have your career. But where I see things going, if you go back to some of the Gartner data, and I follow Gartner extensively, Gartner predicts by 2025 that 51% of enterprise IT spend will be cloud.
Wow.
So half of your budget, and by 2025 will be dedicated to the cloud.
Okay.
At the end of this year, the Gartner prediction is that end user cloud computing will be $500 billion.
Okay. So where do you make a balance? On the one hand, we are saying we are going to save money, but then when you look at these activities, it's going to add cost to your operations.
Yeah, I don't think cloud is cost savings.
Okay.
What cloud provides is agility and business transformation is what it really provides. For example, Salesforce. We have transformed how students apply to the university, how they're admitted, and how they can check their admissions status throughout the entire process. That's delivered by Salesforce. But it's really, you're not going to get cost savings. You're going to get business agility, digital transformation. In a lot of cases, you're going to get better security controls than you have on premise. And so as we transition more systems to the cloud, we're going to have to move CapEx to OpEx to handle those subscription models increasing. But the exponential increase in cost that everyone is facing, you're going to have to make some business decisions in what you invest in. And I think at the university, we really try to look at how many cloud-based applications do we have? Do we really need that many? Can we compress and consolidate? And that's our challenge, working with the different business units to try to all get on the same platform. And that's really important for data and reporting. If you have disparate systems that are not interconnected, you're missing the data opportunities. So with Salesforce right now, we're looking at how long does it take from application to admission? What is that metric? How can we reduce that metric? Because going back to the Domino's pizza model,
Absolutely.
people want it now, they want it fast, and they want to see what's happening. Done.
And it's the same in Pakistan or any country. Because when I travel and go through Middle East and go to Pakistan, or if I go to Europe, I mean, you see the same issues because technology is available everywhere.
It's all right here on your device. And so this is a part of your body.
That's right.
So we have to deliver information and services right here on your device. And if we're not doing that, we're going to miss you as a student.
And when you sit in your car and you go home, your car is connected.
Right.
And then somebody is collecting data. And that data has a value. Any comment on that? I mean, can we escape from this issue, or we are all going to be watched?
Well, I think the question of data privacy is front and center.
That's right.
Well, even with cryptocurrency, with the current administration in the White House, there's going to be more regulation.
Absolutely.
And whether that's good or bad, that's a debate outside of this conversation. But it's important to pay attention to what's happening with crypto.
Yes.
So you have those things happening. The other piece that we're going to see is more hyper-connected devices.
Yes.
Everything's connected. So it's IoT, the Internet of Things.
Yes.
And in the next couple of years, we're going to have 20 billion devices connected to our networks through 5G. So you're going to see a very large role in 5G in connecting devices to the internet, to the network for data acquisition. And a good example of that was Texas A&M AgriLife.
Yes.
They have IoT sensors that we have helped build in partnership with computer science, CIS, and IT. And they're deploying those sensors in different applications in feedlot research.
That's right.
And so they're reading particulate matter in the air with these sensors, and they're low cost. They're $100 to build a sensor.
Wow.
Where before they had specialized equipment that was $33,000 per device. We've gone to $100. So we have a tsunami of data that is coming at us. How do we make sense of the data to make informed decisions and also for continuous process improvement? That's the real trick. And if it's data with people or PII, you have to protect it. There's compliance, data privacy. So the more we do, the more you have to do to protect that information.
So some of the companies like Apple and Microsoft or Amazon, they are not really selling their product. They are also collecting a lot of data. And that data, sometimes it becomes a gray area. We don't know who's the owner,
Right. And these companies want an ecosystem of solutions. And Apple, with the walled garden, is really good at interoperability with your phone, your watch, your iPad. When my phone rings, my laptop rings, my iPad rings.
Yes.
You're sometimes a little too connected.
Yes.
So you have to put up some boundaries to have work-life balance.
That's right. Lately I was working on a project, digital platforms. And digital platforms are social media, and then B2B, and then e-commerce. And I mean, if you go to any country, they are increasing so much productivity. But behind each digital platform, we do see ecosystem. And this is where sometimes the things are kind of pretty fluid. And we have jurisdictional problems. We do not know the ownership. Any comment on that? What do you see happening in future?
Well, that comes down to a business decision. And how much risk you're willing to accept. At the end of the day, you can transfer the risk to third-party insurance. You can mitigate the risk with a security control And if you can't do that, you have to accept the risk.
Okay.
So we look at different solutions that a campus department will bring to us. We looked at one recently, and it was a cloud provider, but it was a niche cloud. It was their own cloud solution in Germany.
Okay.
And so all the data would be hosted in Germany. So we would then be subject to data privacy laws in Germany.
Okay.
So that's a legal counsel input, and then it's presented back to leadership. There's only typically one person that can accept the risk. That's either your board
That's right.
or your president CEO.
Okay.
And are they willing to accept the risk for what could happen? It's just a risk reward. So what do you expect to get out of it? Is it worth the risk?
That's right. So this is a worldwide issue, but no matter what happens, technology will continue to impact our lives. We are connected, but we are also being watched. And in higher education, it has increased my productivity at least 1,000,000%. There was a time I used to sit in the library and pay money and get data in the mail. Those days are gone. I go to the computer. I can be anywhere in the world. I can be connected. I can be connected through FaceTime, or there are so many platforms. And so it has, pluses and minuses.
Right.
But this is what we teach, and no matter what happens, multinational corporations are very big. As I mentioned, Apple and Amazon and all these, Google, they are all above $1 trillion. When we went to school, we never saw that. Right. And so this is a different world we live in. And so the reason we brought you here, because the pace of change is so fast. And that's where we teach what we call diffusion of innovation. What you have today, in few years, it may not be there. Right. I mean, your iPhone, after 5-6 years, maybe a totally a different product.
Well, there's predictions that 60% of the Fortune 500 in the next few years won't be there.
Won't be there, absolutely.
And you have all these unicorn companies starting up that are doing Web 3.0 innovations that you really should start following some of these companies that are coming out that have huge upside on market cap, and they're going to transform how we do business, and we just don't know who they are yet.
That's right. Yesterday we got data, Fortune 500 data. Walmart is 720 billion something. And here I looked at number 2 company in the world, and that is Amazon. Now, just 20 years ago, they were not even there. So this is where technology is not only mind-boggling, but sometimes it's very hard to believe which way we are going.
Well, and you go to brick and mortar store, and you can't find what you're looking for.
That's right.
But you can go to Zappos or you can go to Amazon and you can find it.
Absolutely.
And you can have it delivered to your home almost immediately. Absolutely. So that's changed the mindset of the consumer, and I think it's hurting traditional brick and mortar stores. But you've seen the Amazon storefronts where you just walk in.
That's right.
There's no cashier. Get your merchandise. It reads your phone. You walk out the door.
So what are the 2 most important issues we need to be concerned down the road, I would say, in the next 5-10 years? If technology, you deal with technology all the time.
Yeah, from a business perspective, it's really look at how long that company you think is going to be there.
Okay.
So, for example, when we talked about Salesforce a lot, that was a decision that took us as a leadership team probably 4 or 5 months to make. We looked at every angle of it. How long do we think that company is going to be there? Because if you deploy a solution for your organization and there's a lot of intricacies involved, complexity, data privacy, and 2 years later that company's gone, you've got to start over. And that could affect your business.
Absolutely.
So you have to make decisions based on some longevity, and that's really changing quickly because of mergers and acquisitions. We don't have a crystal ball.
Absolutely.
But we try to go with large incumbent providers that we know are going to be there.
Okay.
So but you have to be careful with vendor lock-in. And so there's a balance there. But then data privacy, cybersecurity are front and center.
Okay.
For every organization with the increase of ransomware, that's not slowing down. There's a lot of thought, leadership into we're actually in a cyber war with different nation states.
Absolutely.
And there's some things that we see. We work with the Security Operations Center at Texas A&M and the state. So the traffic that we've seen, even at our university here, is alarming.
Yes.
So, and then every state that's coming out with data privacy laws, it's become an alphabet soup of data privacy. So you have TexRAMP and GDPR in the EU. You have the California, I think it's the California Consumer Privacy Act. So more states are going to follow. So how do we do business across states and other countries? And so it's the compliance, the legal, data privacy, that's getting more complicated as we go.
Okay, how much time do you spend extra to deal with these issues? I mean, compared to last 10, 15 years.
It's 33% of my job at this point. Contract review, working with procurement, legal counsel, leadership team, risk assessment, all these things to vet different solutions and then manage the contract throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Did they deliver the SLA?
Yes.
What were the metrics? Are we entitled to a credit? It's about 33% of our time,
Wow.
as well as my colleagues' time across the state.
Yes.
It's all about the same. I think I'll work on a legal degree.
And it's happening worldwide.
Worldwide.
It's happening in the European Union. It's happening in Japan, East Asia, Singapore, India, Pakistan, you name any country. They have to be familiar. So this is our new digital world.
And it's cloud.
And it's cloud.
It's all cloud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, James, thank you so much. You educated us today. There are so many things happening. You know, after 10, 15 years, we'll be laughing at some of the comments or discussion we had because the pace of change is so fast, and this is where the fusion of innovation will come in. And we will say, wow, what did I say that? Today we are way ahead. But anyway, no matter what happens, it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's good to be here. Thank
we
you.
hope you come back again and discuss all these things with us.
Okay. Good
Thank
talking
you.
to you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
again.